You think what happened on Raw last night was an accident? You are delusional, and you need to sit down and watch every single second of this video, because what unfolded backstage on Monday Night Raw was not just a brawl, it was an execution. A calculated, cold-blooded, premeditated destruction of the ring general, and the man who pulled the trigger wasn't even supposed to be standing. He was bleeding. He was being carried to the medical room. Seth Rollins was supposed to be done for the night. But oh no. Oh, no. Seth Rollins doesn't just lie down and die. And now he has a partner. And that partner goes by the name of Obafemi. And together, they left Gunther in a heap backstage on the most watched show in professional wrestling. Comment right now, did Gunther deserve everything he got, or did Seth and Oba go too far? Because I need to know where you stand, Ring Rumble family, because this one is dividing the entire WWE universe, and I am not letting this conversation happen anywhere else but right here. Segment 1, setting the scene, the state of Seth Rollins going into Raw. Let's rewind. Let's go back to the beginning of this story, because if you don't understand where Seth Rollins was mentally and physically walking into Monday Night Raw, then you don't understand the magnitude of what happened in that backstage corridor. Seth Rollins has been carrying a target on his back ever since Gunther made it crystal clear that he views Seth as the single biggest obstacle between himself and absolute dominance on Raw. This wasn't personal at first. This was Gunther doing what Gunther does: identifying the threat, isolating the threat, eliminating the threat. That's the ring general's formula. It's clinical. It's cold. It works. But Seth Rollins is not a typical threat. Seth Rollins is the visionary. A man who has clawed his way back from career-threatening injuries, from betrayal, from being written off more times than anyone in that locker room can count. Every single time the WWE Universe thought Seth Rollins was finished, he came back louder, wilder, and more dangerous than before. Gunther studied him. Gunther prepared for him. But there is no preparing for a man who genuinely does not care about the cost of winning. So walking into Raw, the tension was already boiling. Every superstar backstage knew something was going to happen. You could feel it in every promo, every backstage interaction, every long, cold stare that Gunther shot down the hallway whenever Seth's name was mentioned. And Seth was playing it smart. He was walking the tightrope between provocation and restraint, poking the bear, smiling that unhinged smile, letting Gunther's ego do the work for him. That is until Gunther stopped playing defense. Segment 2, the moment that started it all. Seth gets busted open. Here's where it gets violent. Here's where the night turned from must-see television into something that had everyone in the arena on their feet and everyone watching at home screaming at their screens. Gunther, clearly fed up with Seth Rollins' psychological games, made the decision to send a message that couldn't be misunderstood. And that message came in the form of a brutal, vicious backstage ambush that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming at that moment in the show. Seth was walking back toward the locker room area when Gunther and his associates caught him in a moment of vulnerability. What followed was a takedown so savage that it left Seth Rollins legitimately busted open. Blood. Real, visible blood streaming down the face of the visionary as he fought back with everything he had, and he did fight back, because that is who Seth Rollins is, but the numbers were wrong. The position was wrong. Gunther had planned this. This wasn't rage. This was strategy wearing the mask of rage. By the time officials rushed in, Seth Rollins was on the ground, bleeding, dazed. The ring general stood over him with that terrifying, expressionless look that makes your skin crawl because there's no satisfaction on Gunther's face. No celebration. Just confirmation. Just the quiet acknowledgement that the plan had been executed. Medical staff swarmed the scene. Seth was being helped up, being guided toward the medical room, draped over the shoulders of trainers. The whole arena went quiet in that specific way, that nervous, uncertain silence where nobody is sure if what they're watching is part of the show or something genuinely alarming. The camera caught every drop of blood, every stumble, every painful, labored breath. And then just when it seemed like Raw would move on, something shifted. Segment 3, Obafemi enters the story and changes everything. This is the part that has the entire WWE universe losing their minds. This is the moment that nobody predicted, that nobody had penciled in, that exploded out of nowhere like a grenade rolling across the floor of that backstage corridor. Obafemi was there. Now let's talk about what Obafemi being present in that moment actually means, because people are already oversimplifying this and it is driving me absolutely crazy. This was not Obafemi stumbling upon a situation. This was not a coincidence. The way Oba positioned himself, the way he read the room, the way he moved, this was a man who had been watching, who had been waiting. And when Seth Rollins needed someone to turn the tide, Obafemi made a decision that is going to echo through WWE programming for months. He chose Seth's side. Think about what that means for a man of Obafemi's profile. Obafemi is a powerhouse. An absolute physical specimen who has been carving out his own legacy with a ruthlessness and physicality that has made every single person in that locker room stand up a little straighter whenever he walks past. Oba doesn't need alliances. Oba doesn't need anyone. That's always been his operating philosophy: raw, dominant, singular. So when Obafemi stepped into this situation, when he got between Gunther's associates and a bleeding Seth Rollins and made it known with every inch of his body that this was now a different conversation, the entire dynamic of Monday Night Raw shifted in real time. Gunther's associates backed off. Because you back off when Obafemi tells you to back off. That's not a debate. That's physics. And then Seth Rollins, blood still on his face, adrenaline clearly overriding every bit of rational thought in his body. Seth locked eyes with Oba. And something passed between them. A mutual understanding. An unspoken agreement. And then they moved. Segment for the destruction. Seth and Oba dismantle Gunther backstage. What happened next is the kind of thing that gets clipped, reposted, debated, and discussed for years in wrestling communities. Because Seth Rollins, a man who by all rights should have been in the medical room getting stitches turned around, walked back into that backstage corridor. And Obafemi walked with him. Gunther had not yet left the scene. The ring general, who had just stood over Seth Rollins like a king surveying conquered territory, did not expect this. Gunther's composure, that legendary unflappable composure, cracked for just a moment. Just long enough. Because in wrestling, in combat, in any confrontation between human beings, a moment of hesitation is all it takes. Seth came in furious. Wild. Unhinged in that specific Seth Rollins way that is terrifying because it's not random, it's purposeful chaos. Every strike, every slam, every move driven by a white-hot fury that only a man who just had his own blood running down his face could summon. This wasn't wrestling. This wasn't performance. This was retribution, and Seth Rollins has been waiting for this moment for a very long time. And Oba? Oba was systematic. Methodical. Where Seth was fire, Oba was a wrecking ball with a blueprint. He neutralized Gunther's ability to recover. Every time the ring general tried to get his footing, Oba shut it down. Every time Gunther tried to find an angle, a weapon, a way out, Oba closed it. The contrast between the two men was stunning to witness. The visionary and the powerhouse, fury and force working in perfect, devastating harmony. By the time it was over, Gunther was down. Not just beaten, demolished. In a backstage corridor on Monday Night Raw, the ring general, the man who has made an entire career out of being untouchable, out of being the baddest man in whatever room he occupies, was left on the floor. Officials flooded the scene. The chaos was total. And Seth Rollins? Seth walked away. Still bleeding. Barely upright. But walking. And Oba walked beside him. Drop a in the comments if that image gives you chills, because it absolutely should. Segment 5: The aftermath and what this means going forward. Okay. So now we have to talk about what this actually means, because the internet is already going insane with takes and half of them are missing the point entirely. First, Seth Rollins is not okay physically, and that matters. The image of Seth walking away is powerful, but the reality is that he took a serious beating before Oba arrived. The blood was real. The damage is real. And going into whatever comes next, whether that's a championship match, a stipulation match, a war game scenario, Seth is walking in compromised. That changes the calculus completely. It changes how Gunther will approach him. It changes how Seth will have to wrestle. And honestly, it might make Seth more dangerous, because a wounded Seth Rollins with something to prove is the most unhinged version of the visionary we ever see. Second, the Obafemi situation is far more complicated than a simple alliance. Because Obafemi does not do simple alliances. Everything Oba does is in service of Oba. So the question you need to be asking, the question I want you to drop in the comments right now, is why did Oba help Seth? What does Oba gain from this? Is it about Gunther? Does Oba have his own issues with the ring general that we haven't fully seen yet? Or is this about something bigger, something that puts Seth Rollins in a position where he owes Obafemi, and Oba intends to collect? Because that debt, if that's what this is, could be the most interesting story in WWE right now. A man who saves you when you're bleeding on the floor owns a piece of you. And Obafemi doesn't strike me as the kind of man who forgives debts easily. Third, Gunther's aura has taken a hit. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Yes, Gunther put Seth down first. Yes, he was outnumbered 2-1 when the tide turned. Yes, in a straight fight, Gunther versus either of these men alone is a completely different story. But in wrestling, perception is everything. The ring general was left on the floor backstage on Raw. That image exists now. That footage is out there. Every superstar in that locker room saw it or heard about it within minutes. The invincibility myth even slightly has been dented. And Gunther, of all people, knows exactly what that means. He will be furious. He will be calculating his response right now. And when Gunther responds, it will be surgical, savage, and designed to restore every inch of the aura that was taken from him on Monday night. Segment 6: The burning questions for the WWE Universe. Here is what I need from you, Ring Rumble family, and I need this right now in the comments because this conversation has to happen. 1. Is the Seth Rollins and Obafemi partnership legitimate, or is one of them about to turn on the other the second it's convenient? Because I have a feeling this alliance has an expiration date, and I want to know if you think Seth pulls the trigger first or Oba does. 2. How does Gunther respond? Does he go straight at Seth? Does he come for Oba? Does he recruit his own backup and escalate this into an all-out war? Because Gunther is the kind of man who responds to a humiliation with something worse than what he received, and I am genuinely scared for what comes next. 3. Is Seth Rollins healthy enough to compete at the level this rivalry demands? Because Gunther is not a man you can face at 70%. There is no surviving Gunther at 70%. If Seth steps into that ring compromised, we might be watching something genuinely horrifying unfold. Share this video with every wrestling fan you know right now. I'm dead serious. Share it. Tag them. Force them to watch this breakdown because the stuff I just laid out is not being discussed anywhere else at this level of detail. Ring Rumble 1 is where wrestling analysis lives, and I will not let this moment pass without giving it the treatment it deserves. Outro call to action. If you are new here, subscribe right now. Don't think about it. Hit that button because if this is the kind of content you want, deep, passionate, no filler wrestling breakdowns, then Ring Rumble 1 is your home. Like this video if Seth and Oba's partnership has you as hyped as I am. Comment your hottest take below, I read every single one. And share this with the most passionate wrestling fan you know, because they need to be part of this conversation. Stay locked in, Ring Rumble family, because Raw just changed, and we are only getting started. Script notes for recording. Deliver the hook at high energy, almost aggressive pace. Slow down slightly at each segment opener to let tension build. Emphasize capitalized words with voice inflection. Pause after rhetorical questions, let them land. Return to peak energy for the outro call to action.